There comes a time in every life when the soul begins to ask questions that shake the very foundations of existence. Not questions of comfort or survival, but questions of purpose. Why was I born? What am I here to fulfill? What if I reach the end only to discover that I never truly lived? In the days of old, the prophets walked the earth not simply to speak, but to awaken. They came to tear the veil between the earthly and the eternal, to shatter illusions, and to call men and women back to the ancient paths. And in that same spirit, I speak to you now, not to entertain, but to awaken something deep within you. We live in an age where many run after shadows, chasing success, fame, wealth, pleasure, never knowing they are exchanging the eternal for the temporary. The world tells you to live for now, to indulge the self, to delay purpose and embrace distraction. But heaven cries out with a different voice, live for what is eternal. Run your race, finish your course. In the ancient Hebrew, there is a word, shalom, meaning to complete, to fulfill, to bring to wholeness. It is from this root that we get the word shalom, or peace. True peace does not come from what you possess, but from what you have fulfilled. A finished life is a life that brings peace not just to the one who lives it, but to heaven itself. It is the life that hears the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Messiah did not say, "I am finished." He said, "It is finished." He did not come to merely exist, but to fulfill, to complete, to bring to pass all that was written in the scroll concerning him. And if you are in him, then so too must you live, not just to survive, but to fulfill the scroll written about you. You are not a cosmic accident. You are not a mistake in time. You were born in this hour for a divine reason. And the joy, the true joy, the eternal joy, comes not in a life prolonged, but in a life completed, a life poured out, a life surrendered, a life that echoes into eternity. So hear now the call, not just to live but to finish, not just to exist, but to complete the race, to fulfill the assignment, to bring joy to the one who sent you. For the joy of a finished life awaits not those who run aimlessly, but those who run with purpose, vision, and fire. Let the journey begin. A finished life is not about age, but about fulfilling the purpose for which you were born. This truth stands as a holy contradiction to the world's definition of success. The world tells us to measure life by its length, by the number of years we live, the milestones we reach, the possessions we gather, and the titles we hold. But in the realm of God, life is not measured in years. It is measured in purpose. A life of 90 years can be empty, and a life of 30 can be complete if it has fulfilled its divine assignment. This is the mystery of a finished life. That completion does not come when the clock stops ticking, but when the mission has been accomplished. Consider the life of Messiah. He did not live what the world would call a long life. He was cut off in his early 30s, and yet with his final breath, he declared the most powerful words ever spoken, "It is finished." In those words, he did not say, "I am finished," but "it is finished," meaning the work, the purpose, the calling, the scroll written about him before the foundation of the world had been fulfilled. He did not live for comfort, retirement, or reputation. He lived for purpose, and that purpose had a destination. You are not born into this world to merely exist, to wake, to sleep, to repeat. You were sent from eternity into time with a purpose as real as the breath in your lungs. Heaven crafted you with an intention. There are assignments attached to your name, divine appointments waiting in your future, and people whose lives are destined to be touched by yours. You do not have to wait for old age to begin living a meaningful life. Nor should you assume that long life guarantees fulfillment. Time alone does not finish a life. Obedience does. Surrender does. Saying yes to the call does. There are those who reach the end of their days and weep, not because they are dying, but because they never truly lived. They postponed obedience. They ran from their calling. They waited for a more convenient time to say yes to God. But the finished life does not wait, it runs. It does not hesitate. It obeys. It does not count the cost. It answers the call. In heaven's eyes, a finished life is one that has poured itself out like a drink offering before the altar of the Lord. It is a life that may be bruised and battle-worn, but it has left nothing undone. It has completed the race. It has fulfilled the mission. It has not sought the praise of men, but the approval of God. This is the joy of the finished life, not in the years that passed, but in the purpose that was fulfilled. And when the end comes, such a life does not fade, it echoes into eternity. Messiah declared it is finished. Those who walk in him are called to live a finished life. These words were not merely a cry of agony. They were a declaration of triumph, the sealing of a mission fulfilled, the completion of a divine purpose that began before the foundation of the world. When Messiah uttered those words on the cross, he was not speaking of defeat, but of fulfillment. He had come to seek and save the lost, to heal the broken, to fulfill the law, to bear our iniquities, and to redeem the world. Every prophecy, every shadow, every sacrifice of the old covenant was brought to completion in that moment. And so, if we are in him, if we are truly followers of Messiah, then we too are called not merely to exist, but to finish the work assigned to us. To live in Messiah is not to drift aimlessly. It is to walk in purpose. His life becomes our model, his mission our commission, and his surrender our example. He did not live to please himself. He lived to please the Father. He did not hold back a single word, act, or step that was ordained for him. And in the same way, we are not called to a life of comfort, ease, or selfish ambition. We are called to a life of intentional obedience, a life that fulfills heaven's scroll written over us, a life that ends not in regret, but in holy completion. There are multitudes who call themselves believers, yet walk through life as if they have no assignment, as if their faith is a box checked rather than a path followed. But those who truly walk in Messiah walk the way of the cross. They walk the narrow path. They live with the urgency of eternity. They understand that time is a gift, and that every breath is another chance to advance the kingdom, to touch a life, to shine the light, to carry the gospel, to glorify the one who gave it all. Living a finished life does not mean perfection. It means fulfillment. It means that when your race is over, there is nothing left undone. It means your gifts were not buried, your calling was not ignored, your love was not withheld. It means that you stayed the course even when it hurt, that you followed through even when the cost was high, that you poured yourself out for the one who poured himself out for you. Messiah's finished work is not only the foundation of our salvation, it is the pattern for our lives. He finished his course, and now he calls us to finish ours. Not halfway, not with hesitation, but with fire, with faith, and with focus. For the one who abides in him must walk as he walked, and that walk leads to a life that does not simply end, but fulfills. A life that echoes the cry of the cross, not just spoken, but lived. It is finished. The joy of completion outweighs the pain of the journey. This is a truth embedded in the very fabric of the kingdom, a mystery that unfolds in the lives of those who press on through trial, hardship, and testing. The journey of life, especially one lived for the purposes of God, is not promised to be easy. In fact, the path of the righteous is often marked by fire, by wilderness, by valleys and storms. Yet within the suffering, within the pressing and the breaking, there is a hidden glory. For every trial endured, every tear shed, every burden carried in faith brings us closer to something eternal, the joy of finishing the race set before us. Throughout Scripture, the servants of God endured great suffering, but they did so with eyes fixed on the prize. Abraham left all he knew to pursue a promise he never saw fully fulfilled in his lifetime. Joseph was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and imprisoned for years before he stepped into his destiny. David was hunted, betrayed, and tested before he ever sat on the throne. Paul was shipwrecked, beaten, imprisoned, and ultimately martyred. But he declared with unshakable confidence, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." The pain was real, but the joy of completion made it all worth it. There is a joy that cannot be compared, a joy that is not found in temporary relief, but in eternal fulfillment. To finish what God called you to do is to know the deep satisfaction of having lived for something greater than yourself. It is to look back not with regret, but with holy gratitude that you did not quit, that you did not give up when it hurt, that you stayed the course when others turned back. It is the joy of seeing heaven's will accomplished through your surrendered life. Messiah himself endured the cross for the joy that was set before him. The nails, the mockery, the suffering, he bore it all. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. His eyes were on the joy of salvation, the joy of redeeming the lost, the joy of fulfilling the Father's will. And now he calls us to follow in that same path, to carry our cross, to endure hardship, to press on with endurance, knowing that the pain is temporary, but the reward is eternal. A finished life is a surrendered life marked by obedience, sacrifice, and destiny fulfilled. The world measures success by what a person controls, accumulates, and achieves through their own strength. But in the kingdom of God, success is not defined by self-exaltation, but by self-surrender. It is not measured by how much you take, but by how much you give. It is not about ruling your own path, but laying it down for the one who authored your life before your first breath. A finished life is not a life where everything went as planned. It is a life where God's plan was allowed to unfold, no matter the cost. Surrender is the soil from which divine purpose grows. Without surrender, there is no obedience. Without obedience, there is no alignment with heaven. And without alignment, the destiny written over your life remains sealed. To live a surrendered life is to say, "Not my will, but yours be done." It is to yield every part of your being, your dreams, your desires, your fears, your future, into the hands of the one who formed you. It is not passive resignation, but active trust, a daily choosing to die to self so that the purposes of God might live through you. Obedience is the fruit of surrender. It is easy to obey when the command aligns with comfort, but the real test comes when obedience requires discomfort, when it calls you to walk where your flesh resists, to speak when silence feels safer, to move when everything in you wants to stay. Yet every act of obedience, no matter how small, is a brick laid in the foundation of a finished life. The ones who fulfill their destiny are not the ones with the greatest talents or the most favorable circumstances. They are the ones who obeyed, consistently and faithfully, in both the light and darkness. Sacrifice walks hand in hand with surrender. You cannot live a finished life without laying something down. Sometimes it is your comfort, sometimes your reputation, sometimes the plans you had so carefully crafted. Abraham offered up Isaac, Moses gave up the palace, Ruth gave up her homeland, Paul gave up everything. And the Messiah, the very Son of God, gave up his throne, his glory, and his life. But in every sacrifice surrendered to God, something greater was birthed. Purpose was fulfilled. Destiny was completed. To fulfill your destiny is not to become what the world wants you to be. It is to become what heaven intended you to be. It is to reach the end and know that nothing remains undone. That the scroll written over your life has been read and lived out. That the Father's will was not resisted but received. That the cross you were called to carry was not dropped but embraced. A finished life is not a perfect life, but it is a life poured out, held open, and given back to God. It is the life that ends not in striving, but in peace, the peace that only comes when you have fulfilled the reason for which you were born. You were not placed in this time randomly. Your calling is part of a divine orchestration. The world may tell you that life is the product of chance, a result of circumstance, timing, and biology. But the Word of God reveals something far greater, that your very existence, the time of your birth, and the place where your feet now stand are not accidents. They are appointments. Before you ever took your first breath, heaven had already written your name into the tapestry of time. You were not merely born into this generation, you were sent into it, chosen for this exact moment in history to fulfill a purpose that only you can fulfill. Every detail of your life, every struggle you've walked through, every door that opened and every door that closed, none of it was random. Behind what seemed like chaos was the silent movement of God's hand, orchestrating every moment to align you with your calling. Just as Esther was placed in the palace for such a time as this, so too have you been placed in this world at this very hour. The battles you faced, the burdens you carry, the passions that burn within you, they are not coincidences. They are clues. They are pieces of the divine assignment written over your life. You were not created for a time before now. God did not place you in the days of Noah, or the time of Moses, or the courts of David. He placed you here now because this time needed what He placed inside of you. Your voice, your gifts, your obedience, your witness, your influence, these were meant for this hour. You may look at the world and see darkness, confusion, rebellion, and fear. But heaven looks and sees opportunity. Heaven sees a generation ready for harvest, a battlefield ready for warriors, and a wilderness waiting for voices crying out the truth. And you were chosen to be one of them. Divine orchestration does not mean everything will be easy or clear. It means that even when things seem uncertain, you can trust that the composer is still conducting the symphony. You may not see the full picture now, but every note you play in obedience becomes part of something eternal. You are crafted by the Master for a specific note in time. A divine moment when your life will intersect with the purpose of God in a way that changes eternity. To live a finished life is to live as if heaven is the goal and time is running out. It is to walk through each day with eternity in your eyes and urgency in your steps. It is to understand that the clock is not your enemy, but your reminder, that this life is not forever, that every second matters, and that you are one breath closer to your last. Those who live for heaven do not waste their days. They do not delay obedience or bury their callings in the soil of distraction. They rise with the awareness that their time on earth is a mission, a divine window of opportunity that will one day close. When heaven becomes your goal, everything changes. Priorities shift. Desires are purified. The things of this world begin to lose their grip, and the things of God become your pursuit. You stop asking what is convenient and start asking what is eternal. You stop seeking applause and begin seeking obedience. Your eyes are not fixed on what is temporary, but on what will remain when all else fades. You are not just living to be remembered, you are living to be faithful. To live a finished life is to live like a servant sent on assignment, a soldier stationed on a battlefield, a messenger with a word that must be delivered before night falls. Time is running out not just for you, but for the world. The days are growing darker. The signs of the times are unfolding. The world rushes toward chaos, but the children of God must rush toward purpose. We are not guaranteed tomorrow. We are not promised another year. Every delay in obedience risks eternal consequence. Every moment wasted is a moment we can never get back. And yet, for those who live with heaven as their goal, every moment becomes sacred, every task becomes meaningful, every encounter becomes a chance to shine light into darkness. A finished life is not lived in panic but in purpose. It is not rushed, but it is urgent. It is a life of intentionality, a life that measures success not by comfort but by completion. It is the life that can say at the end, I did what I was sent to do. I ran the race. I finished the course. I did not turn back. I did not let the distractions of the world blind me to the call of eternity. I lived like heaven was real because it is. I lived like time was short because it is. Those who live this way may be misunderstood. They may seem intense, radical, unyielding. But heaven will call them faithful. And when the trumpet sounds and the scrolls are opened, theirs will be the names written among the overcomers, the faithful servants, the finished lives. So live as if the kingdom is coming because it is. Live as if time is precious because it is. Live as if heaven is the goal, because it always has been. And finish well. So now we come to the end, but in truth it is not an end. It is the beginning of your turning, your rising, your returning to the purpose for which you were born. The call to live a finished life is not a poetic thought or a lofty ideal. It is the sacred charge for every soul who walks under heaven's assignment. You are not placed here randomly. You are not drifting through time without meaning. Your life has been fashioned by the hands of the Eternal One, and the scroll of your purpose was written long before you ever opened your eyes to the light of this world. To live a finished life is not to reach a certain age or achieve a list of accomplishments according to the standards of man. It is to fulfill what God ordained for you. It is to pour out your life in obedience, to burn with holy fire, to give your days not to vanity, but to destiny. It is to say yes to the voice of the Spirit, to follow the Lamb wherever he leads, and to stand firm in a world that is constantly shifting. It is to live with heaven as your goal, and the time you have left as a sacred gift. Every day brings you one step closer to the moment when your race ends. Every sunrise is another opportunity to sow into eternity. Every heartbeat is a drumbeat moving you toward your final breath, where you will stand before the one who formed you. And what will you say in that moment? Will you weep for what you left undone? Or will you rejoice that you lived not for the fleeting shadow of this world, but for the everlasting glory of God? The pain of the journey, the trials of the path, the moments when it seemed too hard, too costly, these will all fade in the light of the joy of completion. To finish well is to live fully. To surrender is to overcome. And to obey is to align yourself with the divine orchestra that plays the song of your life. You are not too late. You are not too broken. The time you have now is holy. The call still stands. The scroll is still open, so rise, lay aside every weight, cast off every fear. Press forward toward the high calling of God in Messiah. Do not compare your journey to others. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not delay your obedience. Heaven is watching. Eternity is listening. The cloud of witnesses surrounds you, and the one who called you is faithful to finish the work he began in you. If you will only say yes. Let your life be more than survival, let it be significance. Let your days be more than routine, let them be revelation. And when the final moment comes, may you not whisper with regret, but declare with confidence and joy, "It is finished." For that is the joy of the finished life. That is the life that echoes into eternity. That is the life you were born to live.